Welcome back to Monster Month. Today, we're transforming Ginny D into a monster. If you look closely, you can kind of see through my head. For the month of October, I'm transforming D&D creators into D&D monsters. And today I'm transforming Ginny D. I discovered Ginny D through YouTube, and I found out that she's been making content for almost over 7 years. She started out making content about cosplay, how to do cosplay, the cosplays that she was doing, tips, tricks, FAQs, all those types of things. And then about 4 years ago, Ginny released a video on YouTube where she did a video about the Ruby of the Sea. And then directly following that video, Ginny D did a video where she cosplayed as Jester, Laura Bailey's character from season 2 of Critical Role. And from that point forward, Ginny's been doing a lot of content about Dungeons and Dragons. Especially lately, she's been giving a lot of advice to players and dungeon masters on how to have a better time at the table and how to have more fun. But that's barely scratching the surface of Ginny's content. She's really intelligent and she brings a lot to the D&D community. I love her videos and I think she has a lot of really great thoughts about how to play D&D. Ginny's got an eye for design, she's got style, and she's extremely charming and charismatic. And as a side note, I reached out to all of the different D&D creators that I wanted to make monsters for, and Ginny responded to me, which I'm so thankful for. I essentially reached out in an email and I said, hey, I want to make a monster of you. What would you like to see in a monster based on who you are as a D&D creator? And Ginny said, hey, I've done some videos where I'm a scary mermaid who uses her voice as a weapon. Maybe you could use that as some inspiration. And I said, perfect.
I'm so happy.
So I'll show you a little bit of behind the process of how I go about creating a new monster in D&D 5th edition. I pretty much do what's called compositing. Let's talk about that. Compositing is when you take things that already exist and you mash them together to create something new. Now, compositing is really popular in conceptual design and in photography or Photoshop, where you take different pictures and then you'll cut different pieces out of them to kind of mash them together. You'll hide some things away to make it look like it's an entirely new creation, because in a lot of ways it is. And the benefit of compositing in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is that really helps you get a better balance for monsters. Balance in 5e is one of the most difficult things that there are. Challenge rating is incredibly difficult to understand. And so if you're taking things around the same challenge rating and you're mashing them together, well, that can result in a closer approximation to the CR that you want to use, instead of trying to come up with it all yourself. There is a section in the Dungeon Master's Guide about how to create your own monster, but I think compositing is one of the easier ways to do that. I've taken 2 monsters in particular and I've combined their abilities, and then I've added a couple spells here and there, changed some stats, and I think I've got a monster that's getting pretty close to what Ginny D would be. Number 1 is Princess Sarissa from the Storm King's Thunder. For those of you who don't know, there are specific monsters that are released with specific adventure books sometimes, and I thought that was cool. And then the other monster that I used was the Triton Master of Waves from the Mythic Odysseys of Theros book. The Mythic Odysseys of Theros is one of my favorite books in D&D 5th edition, and I feel like it's really underrated in a lot of ways. It started out as a Magic the Gathering campaign, and then what they did is they brought it over into D&D and made it its own setting. It's very inspired by Greek mythology, Greek gods. The gods are very involved in the world. It's really cool. So we know what kind of monster we're making with Ginny D. We're making a wave-soaked maiden, something like a mermaid, something in that kind of mythology range. And then additionally, we want to use her voice as a weapon. Her voice can be charming, but at the same time, it can be powerful and deadly. And I've got an idea on how we're going to do that. And number 3, I think we're going to do something with an element of alluring or deception. It's going to be the fact that your players aren't going to be able to turn away from the wave-soaked maiden. They're going to want to pursue her in one way or another. And I don't know how we're going to work that in yet. We'll see. Now, to me, visuals are such an important part of the game, especially illustration. I love the way that illustration looks and kind of ignites my mind in fantasy and imagination. So I used AI to try to craft an image of what Ginny D, the wave-soaked maiden, would look like. And I have to say, Ginny was one of the hardest ones that I had to tackle on this list. Last week I did Pointy Hat, and Pointy Hat looks like this weird sorting hat Harry Potter aberration monster. But Ginny D, her character is much more of a mermaid, something that we have a better conception of. Even though the AI knows what a mermaid looks like and could probably make a mermaid picture pretty easy, I still had a vision in my head of what I wanted the picture to look like. And so I went through iteration after iteration on Midjourney, the program that I used to make this AI art. And actually I did so many times that I ran out of credits. But before I show you what me and the AI came up with, Here's a quick ad. Promise this will be less than 15 seconds. If you want free adventure hooks for your game, check me out on the DMs Guild. It's linked below. I made something called the Adventure Machine. It's an easy way to get like 20 free adventure hooks. Please check it out. Oh wow, we did that in like 10 seconds. All right, I'm headed into D&D Beyond to make the final finished stat block. And once I'm done, I'll show you how to run the encounter. Let's get to work. It's hurting my head. It's done. I've got to say, Ginny is pretty scary. We'll go over a couple of the specifics, but here are the main abilities that I think that you're really going to want to use in an encounter with Ginny D, the Wave-Soaked Maiden. One of the primary abilities of Ginny D, the Wave-Soaked Maiden, is she can summon water weirds. She goes down into the water, and as she comes up, several water weirds look just like her, and they all attack the party together. These water weirds are indistinguishable from Ginny D unless they're attacked. Once they're attacked, like whether it be a melee attack or a spell attack, part of their body kind of demorphs as it's just water that has discolored itself to look like Ginny. So upon an attack, they can tell, okay, that's not the real Ginny, that's a water weird. And then her second signature ability is her Song Strike. She can sing to a point within 500 feet of her, and every creature within 10 feet of that point needs to make a dex save, or they take a ton of thunder damage. She has access to some spells like Control Weather, Control Water, Ray of Frost, Levitate. She has a reaction where she can pull water up to create what I call a Torrent Shield. It's very similar to the Triton Master of Waves Frigid Shield. And then Ginny's also got a Lair and Lair actions. One of them is she can kind of create these water tendrils that come up out of the water, and she can water bend them around to strike people who might be out of her firing range. And then secondly, she can create fog points around. Maybe that could help obscure vision of the enemies so that they can't attack her as easily as maybe they would have. I also thought it would make sense to make her a charisma caster. But let's talk a little bit about how I see this encounter playing out. Welcome to the laboratory. Here's the whiteboard. Now let's get into this encounter. So first of all, Ginny is going to want to lure people to the water. Maybe the players will actually stumble upon Ginny when she is at her water domain. She's almost never going to attack on land because that's really not where she's suited to fight. And she's going to attempt to make herself seem as non-threatening as possible. She's going to use persuasion and deception to make herself look like she's just a helpless little mermaid. After she gets them to her lair, her goal is to get them in the water. Ginny knows that most land dwellers are not good swimmers, or at least not as good as her. And so she wants to get them into the water to slow them down and to make her attack perfect. She might tell the adventurers that, oh, there's some treasure at the bottom here. Do you want to help me come get it? Or something to that effect, something that will get them in the water. Once she gets the players in the water, she's going to go under the water and try to limit their visibility. And then once that happens, she'll spring back out of the water with the duplicate water weirds of herself and perform her attack. She'll use her lair actions to limit their visibility and to drag them deeper into the water. She knows that if she can get them under the water, that they're going to be less of a threat above the water. And if any of the players get far enough away from the water, or they weren't fooled into getting into the water in the first place, Ginny will use her Song Strike in order to try to incapacitate them. Now, I can't stress this enough. This is a very deadly fight, and I would make sure that you don't have your players face her after they've already faced multiple other threats that day. They need to have as many resources as possible for this fight, because I honestly think that this could be a seriously dangerous one. To Ginny, thank you so much for responding to me via email. You have no idea how much that meant to me. And to everybody else who's watching, thank you so much for watching. I hope you like this video. If this is the first video you've been watching, please check out my video last week where I turned Pointy Hat or Antonio D'Amico into a monster. It was really fun, and I think that you're gonna like it. And make sure you subscribe, because next week I'm gonna be turning somebody else into a monster. We'll see who it is. But please leave a like and hit subscribe. I think you're gonna enjoy the rest of Monster Month, and I'll see you in the next one. Good luck out there, adventurer. the glasses, those goggles that I wear, give me like a dent in my head. It hurts. Look at that. Art. The cost for art.